Pick up any ancient Greek coin and flip it over. See that owl staring back at you? That little bird changed the world, because the silver in that coin came from one specific place, a network of tunnels carved into the hills of southern Attica, the mines of Laurion. And the economics of those mines are absolutely wild. We're talking about a mining operation that funded an empire, that built the most powerful navy the ancient world had ever seen, that literally saved Western civilization from Persian conquest, all because Athens figured out how to turn rocks into warships. Laurion sits about 50 kilometers south of Athens, near Cape Sunion. But the real treasure was underground. The geology here is unusual. Layers of marble and schist folded on top of each other. And right at the contact points between those layers sat the ore deposits. Silver sulfides mixed with lead, zinc, and iron oxides. 3 separate ore horizons stacked like a geological layer cake. The silver content in the raw ore was only about 0.1%. That means for every ton of rock you hauled out, you got about 1 kilogram of silver. Which sounds terrible until you realize how much rock they actually hauled out. At its peak, Laurion produced around 20,000 kilograms of silver per year, plus about 8,000 tons of lead as a byproduct. That is industrial-scale mining. 2,500 years ago, archaeologists have found nearly 700 ancient shafts cut into the hills, about 200 ore processing stations scattered across the landscape. The whole operation covered more than 120 square kilometers. Some of those shafts plunge 120 meters down, others reach 160 meters deep. All of it carved by hand, with iron picks and chisels, by torchlight. Now here is where the business model gets interesting. Athens did not run these mines directly. The state owned the mineral rights, but it leased individual mining concessions to private operators. Think of it like a franchise system, but for digging holes in the ground. A wealthy Athenian would bid for the right to work a specific seam. We know one operator named Pantainetos paid 9,000 drachmas for a 3-year lease. That is about 1.5 talents of silver, which was serious money. A skilled worker earned about 1 drachma per day. So a mining lease cost the equivalent of roughly 25 years of wages. This was not a game for small investors. You needed capital and a stomach for risk. Because if your seam turned out to be low grade, you lost everything. But if you hit a good vein, the returns were extraordinary. The state collected fees and taxes from every lease. Annual revenue reached about 920 talents. That is 5.5 million drachmas flowing into the Athenian treasury every year. For context, a single trireme warship cost about 1 talent to build. So the mines were basically printing money for Athens. The operators kept the rest and some of them got fabulously rich. But there was a catch. A massive, horrifying catch. The entire business model ran on slavery. Every major mine owner needed hundreds of workers, all of them enslaved. At its peak, somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 slaves worked at Laurion. They were the engine of the entire operation. Slaves made up 80 to 90% of a mine's working capital. Not labour costs, working capital. They were listed as assets on the balance sheet. An average mining slave cost about 150 to 200 drachmas to purchase. Young boys went for 50 to 100 drachmas. Specialists cost up to 300. The richest mine owners did not even buy their own slaves. They rented them. The general Nicias was the biggest player in this game. He owned 1,000 slaves and rented them out to mine operators. The going rate was 1 obol per day per slave. There are 6 obols in a drachma, so that is roughly 1/6 of a drachma daily. 1,000 slaves at 1 obol each brought Nicias about 166 drachmas a day. That is over 60,000 drachmas a year, just in rental income. The return on investment was around 30% annually. Compare that to cash loans, which only yielded about 12%. Renting human beings to dig silver was the best investment in ancient Athens. The lease contracts even came with a warranty. If a slave died or escaped, the owner had to replace them at no extra charge. Let that sink in for a moment. There was a warranty on human beings. Now picture the actual working conditions. Tunnels carved just 1 meter high in some places. Workers crouched or crawled through passages barely wider than their shoulders. The air was thick with dust and poisonous gases from the ore. Oil lamps provided the only light. Ventilation was almost non-existent. Two workers would advance a tunnel face together. 10 hours of labour per shift. Their progress? About 10 to 12 centimetres per day. That is roughly the width of your hand, in 10 hours of chipping solid rock. The mines ran continuously, day and night, in rotating shifts. Children were sent into the narrowest passages, where adults could not fit. Ancient sources tell us that many workers never saw daylight again. Xenophon, writing in the 4th century BC, proposed buying more state-owned slaves for the mines. He talked about it like a perfectly rational business investment. Diodorus Siculus described the mining slaves with more honesty. He wrote about bodies broken by exhaustion, darkness, and cave-ins. Workers who prayed for death because the tunnels had become their tombs. The ore came out of the ground in rough chunks. Then it went through a brutal multi-step refining process. First, crushing. Slaves pounded the ore with stone hammers into smaller pieces. Then further grinding, often done by women and elderly slaves. The crushed ore was washed in rectangular settling tanks called washing tables. Water carried the lighter waste material away, leaving the heavier silver-bearing ore behind. Some operations used more efficient circular or spiral washing systems. The concentrated ore then went to the furnaces. Smelting required enormous amounts of charcoal. Workers heated the ore to separate the lead from the silver through cupellation. They blasted air into clay furnaces to push temperatures above 1,000 degrees. The lead melted first and absorbed the silver. Then they reheated the lead. At extreme temperatures, the lead oxidized and blew away, leaving pure silver behind. This process consumed staggering amounts of wood. Forests around Laurion were stripped bare. Then the forests on nearby islands were cut down too. Ancient Attica's landscape was permanently scarred by the mining industry, and the lead contamination from smelting poisoned the soil for millennia. To this day, local agricultural products around Laurion are not recommended for consumption. Now let us talk about the money, because the numbers are remarkable. Mine output represented roughly 25% of Athens' entire annual wealth. A single mine owner could earn dozens of talents per year from a good concession. Nicias, with his 1,000 rental slaves and his own mining operations, was worth over 100 talents. That made him one of the 5 richest men in Athens, almost entirely from mining. An investment of 200 drachmas in a single slave returned about 60 drachmas per year. Payback period, just over 3 years. After that, pure profit. Assuming, of course, the slave survived that long. Many did not. The silver itself was turned into Athens' most famous export, the owl tetradrachm. Each coin weighed about 17 grams of high-purity silver. These became the world's first truly international trade currency. Merchants from Egypt to Persia accepted Athenian owls without question. Athens never debased the silver content, and merchants knew it. But the most consequential thing the silver ever paid for was ships. In 483 BC, miners struck a massive new vein at Laurion. The Athenian assembly debated what to do with the windfall. Some politicians wanted to distribute the silver equally among all citizens, about 10 drachmas each. A nice bonus, but nothing transformative. Then Themistocles stood up and made the argument that changed history. He said the Persians were coming back, and Athens needed a navy. He proposed spending 100 talents of Laurion silver to build 200 triremes. The assembly voted yes. His rival Aristides, who opposed the plan, was ostracized. Each trireme needed 170 rowers arranged in 3 tiers. Athens went from a minor naval power to the largest fleet in Greece. And in 480 BC, when Xerxes invaded with 1,000 ships, Athens was ready. The Battle of Salamis was fought in a narrow strait. Those 200 triremes, funded by Laurion silver and crewed by Athenian citizens, smashed the Persian fleet. It was one of the most decisive battles in human history. If Persia had won, Greek democracy and philosophy might have died in their cradle. And it all traced back to a bunch of tunnels in the hills south of Athens. During the Peloponnesian War, the Spartans occupied a fort at Decelia, near the mines. About 20,000 slaves seized the opportunity and fled to the Spartan lines. The mining industry collapsed almost overnight. Athens never fully recovered the output. It turns out your entire economy should probably not depend on enslaved people staying enslaved. So what is the final balance sheet on Laurion? On one side of the ledger, the birth of Athenian naval supremacy, the funding of democracy, the coins that powered Mediterranean trade, the silver that built the Parthenon and paid for the golden age of Athens. On the other side, tens of thousands of human beings worked to death underground, forests stripped from the hills, soil poisoned with lead for thousands of years. The most celebrated democracy in history was bankrolled by one of its greatest atrocities. Every owl coin that left Athens carried a tiny piece of that contradiction. 17 grams of silver, dug from the earth by slaves who never saw the sun, stamped with the face of Athena, goddess of wisdom. Wisdom apparently has a price, and at Laurion someone else always paid it.